Creating a custom meal plan for your specific needs can be incredibly difficult to understand exactly where to start and what to do. That is why you are going to love this week's video podcast where we are going to dive in to a complete full depth tutorial on how to create a custom meal plan for your specific needs. And make sure you stay until the end of the video because we have so much great information that if you skip a little bit, it's gonna set you back, and I wanna make sure your meal plan is set up perfectly for you. But before we get to that, please make sure to consider giving a like and subscribing to our channel as we help individuals of all abilities in life improve their overall health and knowledge of the gym. So a good starting point when making any meal plan for yourself is to decide what your fitness and health goals are. So you really need to dive into why are we doing this, and ultimately that is going to give you a firm foundation on exactly where you can go from to build your diet plan. Okay, so when deciding on your diet goals, one of the first things that I will usually recommend people to do is to simply assess your desire. So it may seem kind of like, duh, of course I'm gonna do that. I wanna lose weight, I wanna build muscle. But the thing about this is you need to be very specific. A lot of people don't know exactly what they wanna do when it comes to their diet goals. So you need to sit down, maybe even take 5 minutes and say, this is really what I want out of my diet. And this isn't to say that this is going to change. At some point, you might lose a bunch of weight and then you want to build a bunch of muscle. That happens to a lot of people. And that is perfectly okay. But you need to be focused on one specific thing right now so you can know exactly where to divert your goals. So if you want to lose weight, that's great. We're losing weight. If you want to build muscle, we're building muscle. Toning, as I like to say, or recompositioning is where you slowly build muscle and lose weight at the same time. This is hard to do for a lot of individuals, so I'd recommend probably just sticking to losing weight or building muscle. But on top of that, maybe you just want better performance in your life, right? You want to be able to move better. You want to be stronger, faster, all these different things. So maybe even though you're not a quote unquote actual athlete, you still want to build those components of athletics and just be bigger, stronger, faster as a average Joe. And that's kind of like me. I play hockey, deck hockey. It's like street hockey. And even though I'm not a professional, I still like being able to move fast. I still like being able to be strong. I still like being able to be agile. And those are still important for me. And because of that, that dictates part of what I eat on my diet, of course. And then another diet goal could even just be maintaining, keeping where you're at. You could be in a position where you're like, I like how I look. I like how I move. I like how I feel. And you're just gonna coast with that for essentially until you want to change your goals. But being content where you're at is a perfectly fine goal, because if you don't stick with one of these goals, one of the other goals inadvertently is gonna happen. For example, if you're not physically telling yourself right now, I want to lose weight, you will naturally either maintain weight or gain weight. If you're not focused on the goal, it's bound to have one of these other aspects take over. So that's really important. We need to have that focus. And then when you're talking about your specific diet goal, you need to make your goal specific and emotional. Now, what do I mean by these two things? Well, let's use weight loss as an example, and we'll use building muscle as another example in a second. But when it comes to weight loss, maybe your goal, to make it specific, is I want to lose 20 pounds in the next year. It's realistic and it's very specific versus saying, I want to lose some weight. That doesn't give you any metric. It doesn't give you any guidance. So we need to have that something sort of tangible. And when I say tangible as in something you can reach towards, this isn't to say that if you don't reach this, it's a failure. You just need something to project and move towards. That's the whole idea with all this. You need kind of a marker and a target to just move towards. When it comes to making it emotional, this is really key because this is where it becomes meaningful for you. So making it emotional could be, I want to do it to live longer for my kids. I want to lose that 20 pounds so I can live longer for my kids and loved ones. Maybe it's emotional because you never could fit into clothes in high school or college, and you're telling yourself, I'm going to do this so I can build my confidence and finally fit into those clothes that I never was able to do. Let's talk about building muscle. Maybe you want to gain strength and build muscle in your legs, right? So that's very specific. It's a specific aspect. Maybe your upper body is really strong. But why do you want to build that strength in your legs? Well, maybe you want to do it so you can walk long distances when traveling and visiting all the other beautiful countries in the world. Maybe you just want to have enough leg strength to be able to stand longer at your job if you have a job that's very manual labor based, right? And when you do that, you know you're going to enjoy the job more. Making it emotional, making it specific for your specific circumstances is so incredibly crucial, guys. So incredibly crucial. So when completing your fitness goals and when completing your diet and health goals, constantly remind yourself of the why, that emotional grab that you just talked about, that we just talked about. Why are you doing this? What's keeping you in it? What are you doing this before? Is it just for vanity? No, hopefully not. It may be able to just make you look a little bit better. That's great. But finding something deep down and connecting it emotionally that drives you when times are tough. And you know, there will be potential times where they're tough, where you're not gaining a bunch of muscle, right? Or losing a bunch of weight. And you need to persevere and stay dedicated and consistent. That's why the reminder of your why is so important. And kind of as I discussed earlier, be okay and willing to pivot. Be ready to pivot. You may find a crossroads where you're like, you know what? I look good. I lost a bunch of weight and I'm ready to start to get faster. I want to improve how fast I can run a mile, right? You're pivoting your goals. It's not that that other one doesn't matter at all. It just doesn't matter nearly as much as what you're trying to do now. And maybe your goals are going to evolve into something even more, to maybe now, instead of just getting a faster mile time, you want to be able to run a marathon or something crazy. It doesn't have to be. But again, be okay and ready to evolve. Be okay and ready to pivot, because all of these things are something that is going to happen. And you're going to find a point where you're like, I completed that goal, or I completed it as much as I want to and got as close to the goal as I wanted to, and I'm ready to move on to my next chapter, right? That's kind of what you can do to hopefully decide on your diet goals and move you in the right direction. So go ahead and drop a like. Let me know what your current diet goals are down in the description. I'd love to know, and I'm really curious on what you are after. My current diet goals are basically maintaining, trying to eat a little bit in a surplus just to gain a little bit of muscle, but really maintaining my current body and just building off that is my goal. So let me know yours down as well. And on top of that, what we can do, which will also be incredibly crucial for us, is finding our calorie goals. Now, finding the calorie goals are great and a huge step, because once you know exactly what you want to do, build muscle, lose weight, the calories become incredibly important as your ultimate way to move towards those actual goals, right? So the way that I recommend to find your calorie goal is through using a variety of calorie calculators online. Now, you could just simply do guess and check where you download MyFitnessPal or you just write it on a piece of paper throughout the day. There's a lot of calorie counting apps out there, and you can just say, hey, I'm going to try to eat 2,000 calories today. I'm going to log all my food and eat 2,000 calories, and then if I gain weight, clearly I'm eating in a calorie surplus, or if I lose weight, clearly I'm in a calorie deficit. But what I would recommend is going online to Google to the NIH Body Weight Planner. And the great thing about this is that what you can do is actually put in your current activity level, your current sex, and your current weight goals on exactly what you are as an individual, and whether you are trying to gain, let's say, 6 pounds in 3 months, or you're trying to lose 20 pounds in 1 year, you can literally plug all of these things in exactly into the calculator. And what it's going to do is give you a calorie number on what you need to do to hit those respective goals for yourself. Keep in mind with all of these things though, this isn't the exact amount of calories you burn, right? You're not going to put in, in my case, a 25-year-old male who's about 160 to 165 pounds. And it's going to push out a number, probably about 2,800 calories, I'd guess, 2,700 calories, whatever. And that's an estimate. I could be burning a lot more throughout the day. I could be burning a lot less, but that's a base average over lots of different regressional data over a lot of different people and backgrounds. So it's a good starting point, but it's a rough estimate. So be okay and willing to try out and kind of move towards more that guess and check method, as I talked about at the beginning of the video. And as I discussed, the NIH Body Weight Planner will give you estimates that help you to maintain your weight, gain weight, and even lose weight. And it will even do it to the point where you can put in, I'm going to change my physical activity by, let's say, 10%, and it will give you your calorie goals for changing your activity. So maybe right now, for example, you are only working out 3 days a week, and you're going to start working out 5 days a week to try to lose a little bit of weight. You can put in, I am going to change my physical activity by 25%. And with that, it will estimate your calories even more. So it's a really good tool, really cool, and does essentially all of the guesswork for you. If you do use a normal calorie calculator like the Mifflin St. Jour, that's a really good one. I'm just trying to think. If you type in calorie calculators online into Google, it's probably going to be one of the first ones that come up. You will need to do a little bit of extra work. These calorie goals will usually give you your total daily energy expenditure, or your TDEE, and that's essentially the amount of calories you burn every single day. Now, from this number, based off your diet goals, whether you're trying to gain weight or lose weight, you know exactly how many calories you need to eat above or below. So let's say it gives you 2,500 calories as your maintenance calories. That is to maintain your overall body weight. That means that eating any amount of calories above this, you will gain weight. And eating any calories below this, you will lose weight, right? So I'd recommend, depending on which way you're trying to go on the scale, to do either a 300 or 500 calorie deficit or surplus, depending on your current diet goals, right? So if you're trying to gain some weight, I'd recommend, let's say 2,500 calories is the example again, that you're only going to be eating about 300, maybe 500 calories in a surplus if you're really, really feeling it, okay? And below this, of course, this is important, same exact thing. You don't want to go completely off the hinges, and if 2,500 calories is your maintenance, now you're going to say, okay, I'm just going to eat 1,500 calories. That's 1,000 calories less. That's a pretty big jump And I usually wouldn't recommend people to go right into that right off the bat. Maybe you're going to get to that at some point, but right at the beginning, go slow and steady, build up that consistency. And then another thing to recommend too is just on protein. All the other macronutrients you can kind of play with, eating more carbs or more fat. But protein is really important and crucial to remain at a constant, right? And for most individuals, 0.82 grams per pound of body weight is usually going to be a good amount of protein to hit your diet goals. Usually 1 gram per pound of body weight is also recommended too if you can handle it, but that is a little more protein, especially if you're really overweight or obese. That might be a lot of protein. What usually is a better metric though is if we talk about eating 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. That's how much muscle, how much bone, and basically non-fat mass you have on your body. The problem with that is a lot of people don't have access to body fat calculators where you can find out exactly how much lean mass you have on your body. So 0.82 grams or roughly around 1 gram per pound of body weight. Just try to get near that and you will be totally good to go. And then when it comes to your macronutrients, your other things like carbs or fats, just fill in whatever you enjoy more. It doesn't really matter. And then of course, getting enough fruits and vegetables, that should hopefully be a given and taken if you want to live the longest, live the healthiest, and feel the best in your life. So that's a crucial part here. And once you know your calorie goals, you can do so much more with it. So go ahead and drop a like so far if you are enjoying that part of the video. Thank you for sticking for that. And once you're done finding your calorie goals, an important thing to know is the actual amount of calories in food. And this is honestly a dieting hack. So if you can master this and truly appreciate how many calories are in all the foods you consume, you will be basically invincible in dieting, gaining weight, everything you can do. So the importance of calorie calculating is that literally everything at the end of the day comes down to calories, okay? So you need to strictly understand that when it comes to gaining weight, you need to be eating more calories every single day than you burn. Losing weight's the complete opposite. Now, calorie counting doesn't have to be long term, as in you don't have to meticulously count all the little calories in your diet every single day, right? But it is a good kind of frame of reference and a good starting point for you, because once you do this, even for just a couple weeks, you will have a vast understanding of all the calories that exist in a lot of the foods that you eat consistently, okay? It gives you an idea on the calories of food, and once you do that, you can kind of say, okay, I know that roughly there's this amount of calories in this meal, and roughly there's amount of this calories in this meal, and roughly this is how many calories I need to eat in a day for my specific goals. And then you just go from there. You live your life and realize the knowledge you've gained from building a little bit of calorie counting base will set you up for the rest of your life. So let's talk about the calories in macronutrients, and this is what food is comprised of. So protein has 4 calories per gram, and protein is also very satiating and very important when it comes to building muscle. So it helps to keep you full, and it helps to maintain lean mass and build lean mass. So incredibly important, and why protein is important for both dieting and losing weight and gaining weight. Carbs also have the same amount of calories per gram as protein, but they're not as satiating, right? A cup of rice, let's say, versus a cup of chicken breast, right? One's going to be a lot more calories in it because the carbs are usually more calorie dense, as in the amount of food in that you get from that bulk of food. 1 cup of rice, for example, is much more dense in calories than that cup of chicken breast. even though they have the same calories per gram. Fat is extremely calorie dense or nutrient dense, 9 calories per gram. If you take that same cup and fill it with peanut butter, you're talking about maybe 2,000 calories in that cup of food versus a cup of chicken is, I don't know, maybe like 100 calories. A cup of rice is probably about 200, 250 calories. Insane stuff. Alcohol, 7 calories per gram. Now, foods that are really easy to overeat on, junk foods, stay with me here, pay close attention, are high in usually both carbs and fat together. And this is what makes them really delicious, really tasty. And then you add in a little bit of sodium in that as well. Oh man, that's like a potato chip with dip. Bunch of carbs, bunch of fat all together, bunch of salt all together. Tastes so good, right? I'm just mouth watering thinking about it right now. And also very low in fiber. You could literally eat a bag of chips with some dip, no problem. And the amount of calories in that is incredible. To put in perspective, let's look at an example more specifically. So if we want to have 400 calories of a food, let's look at Pop-Tarts. So 2 Pop-Tarts or a sleeve of Pop-Tarts has 400 calories in it. 400 calories in 2 Pop-Tarts. If you think about it, there's not a lot of fiber. They're really high in carbs, decently high in fat, not super high in fat, but really high in carbs, really low in fiber. 13 ounces of chicken breast. This is almost a pound of chicken breast. Has 400 calories. Could you eat a pound of chicken breast in one sitting? I know I can, but I really enjoy it. Not a lot of people can. 400 calories is in 13 cups of broccoli. Let that sink in. 13 cups of broccoli. Who's eating that? 400 calories. Or how about 4 tablespoons of peanut butter? So you take a big scoop out with a big spoon and another big spoon out, and likely that is probably about 4 tablespoons of peanut butter. I could eat 4 tablespoons of peanut butter incredibly easily, and I just thinking about it, 400 calories. So let's think about it even in the Pop-Tart example. You take those 4 tablespoons of peanut butter, put it on those Pop-Tarts, you have 800 calories. And that's like zero food. Versus if I ate 13 ounces of chicken breast and 13 cups of broccoli, my stomach would explode. So this is just one of many examples of how powerful it is to know the calories of food and realizing that the junk foods, why they are so easy to gain weight on is not because they're junk foods, it's because they are high in calories because they are low in fiber and high in carbs and fats. Important when you are eating out, important when you are shopping at the store. Pay attention to those nutrition labels and you will gain an unfair advantage on the rest of the world on your dieting journey. And once you have that frame of knowledge, you can go into picking your diet foods for your specific goals, okay? So we're gonna go over losing weight, gaining weight, and even just performing better, maybe in a recreational sport or your activities of daily life, okay? So when it comes to losing weight, the way we think about this is that we usually want more lower calorie, high density foods. So foods that have an extremely small amount of overall energy to them, but a huge amount of food volume. Usually these types of foods are going to be very high in protein, very high in fiber, and fairly low in fat, okay? So a great example of this would be something like a salad with chicken breast, okay? Maybe a little bit of light dressing, not too much, not a bunch of extra cheese and croutons because that's a bunch of extra fat and things that are low in fiber. And we're trying to keep it lean for our weight loss goals. But if you think about it, lettuce and vegetables There's not a whole lot of calories in them. They're very dense though in micronutrients, very dense in fiber, which can help to keep you full. And the micronutrients will help all your bodily functions to work much, much better, of course. That chicken breast, that protein is extremely satiating as well, which will help to keep you full so you don't think about binging on all of those other foods that are delicious, like the example that we're going to give on this next one. So let's think of a fried chicken sandwich with ranch on it. So this is decent in protein, right? You got the chicken breast on it, so probably like 20 to 25 grams of protein. But then you are frying it, so you're adding a bunch of extra fat, which doesn't have any extra fiber to it. You are adding ranch to it, which has a bunch of extra fat with zero fiber to it. It's basically like drinking a liquid, if you think about it. It's a liquid calorie. And then you even have the bun on top of it, and a lot of times those buns are buttered. They might have some extra sauce on them, and they might have just a little bit of extra something added to it to make it even more calorie dense and delicious. So you could be eating something like a fried chicken sandwich with ranch that would have, I don't know, these things are crazy nowadays, maybe 1,000, maybe 1,500 calories in just one sandwich like that, versus a salad with chicken breast, which you can make a big bowl of salad, and that could only be like 200 to 300 calories, and that would fill you up maybe for almost 2 meals. Or you can eat that fried chicken sandwich with ranch, which will fill you up, but it'll also make you tired. It'll make you feel sick. It'll make you hungrier much quicker later in the day because there's not a whole lot of fiber to it. And it's not going to help you with your weight loss goals. You probably consumed your entire calorie budget in just, that one sandwich, for example. And the way the world's designed, there's more and more of these foods. Like if you go to Burger King or Wendy's, for example, I'm thinking of like the triple baconator, like stuff like that, where there's just so much fat and calories packed into it that you're just asking to gain weight. Now, when I talk about these foods, you can still eat them. You just need to realize that they come at a cost. And that if you're not aware of the cost, as in the calorie cost, it's going to show up on your waistline, of course. So, on the exact opposite, gaining weight, we can shoot for more moderate protein, because when you're gaining weight, you don't need as much protein to build muscle, simply because calories are protein sparing. So if you're eating enough overall calories, you don't need to worry about that protein. When you're losing weight, you need to worry about protein because you are eating in a calorie deficit. And if you don't have those calories, which are of course protein sparing or muscle sparing, you're going to need to replace it with actual protein. Gaining weight, don't worry about as much, just more of a moderate protein approach. You're going to want to have stuff that's maybe a little bit lower in fiber. This isn't saying neglect fruits and vegetables, but maybe not the most fibrous vegetables, right? Maybe not the most fibrous fruits. Like a banana is something I'm thinking of, for example. There, of course, is a little bit of fiber in that, but it's not the most fiber dense. And I'm trying to think of another vegetable off the top of my head. I love broccoli, but that's extremely fiber dense. So I might lean towards another option. I'm trying to think. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Maybe carrots. I don't know. I don't know the fiber content in carrots. Usually the greener it is, the more fiber it's going to have into it. That's kind of a rule of thumb, but just generally, vegetables have more fiber. So maybe sticking with more fruits in a bulking phase, right? And then you can add a little more higher carbs and a little bit higher in fat. And when you're talking about adding these things, you still need to pay attention, to your calorie goals, because that's going to dictate everything at the end of the day. So let's use the example of having an oatmeal with a banana, right? So a little bit of carbs, Actually, a lot of bit of carbs, a little bit of fiber in the oatmeal and banana. There's not really a lot of protein in that, right? So we want a little bit more protein. And maybe we can afford to have a little more fat. So instead of that, you're going to have shredded wheat, which has a lot more carbs in it. So that's one aspect. You're adding whole milk, which has a little bit of fat and calories and a little bit of protein in it, which is great, what we need, moderate protein, and a banana. Still both pretty healthy options, but one's not really having that protein in it, even a little bit of protein, and not really a lot of fat. And when you're trying to gain weight, and if you struggle to gain weight and put on those extra calories into your diet, those specific foods are going to greatly help you to do exactly that. So when it comes to performance, as in moving bigger, becoming stronger, and being basically more athletic, either in your actual athletic life or just recreational and life. I don't know if that works, but it sounds good. You're going to be eating foods similar to gaining weight. So it's going to be pretty moderate in protein, lower in fiber, higher in carbs and fats. But what we're trying to do with performance is not usually gain weight. If you're in a point where you're okay with your weight, you're usually just trying to move better, perform better. You gotta pick a way to make sure you are sticking to those calories. That's going to be super crucial and important for this specific portion, right? So you must not overeat on calories, otherwise you're gonna gain weight. And that's not our goal. It's just to perform better, to move faster. All of those different things. So you're gonna find some foods that you enjoy that meet these criteria, and you need to stick with them and realize you can enjoy the other foods, but they might not help you get directly to your goals as much as you want to. Let's use the losing weight for example. And you know that you need to be eating mainly lower calorie, high density foods. So normally you get a salad for lunch, but one day you're like, I just really want a burger and fries. That's perfectly okay to eat, but realize if you have a calorie budget, you might eat up half of that calorie budget in that one meal, versus if you had your normal salad, you are going to be eating maybe a quarter of your calorie budget, right? So just realize there's a little bit of sacrifice in some portions and a little bit of non-sacrifice in the others. So it's a push and pull. Maybe on a day where you're busy and that's the only meal you're eating, then that's fine. You can kind of work with that. But if you're not in a situation, maybe you're just going to stick with your normal one. On the aspect of gaining weight, maybe you're somebody who's like, yeah, but I really like eating salad with some vegetables. That's fine. Just realize that's going to be very filling, and it's going to be hard for you to get the rest of those calories in later in the day. So just realize there's always pros and cons to all of your dieting decisions, and they come down to your specific preferences. So if you got value from that, please go ahead and drop a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And in addition to that, we can then start to move into how to create a sample meal plan day. So when you know your calorie goals, and you should have found that by looking at the NIH Bodyweight Planner on Google, finding your calorie goals, you can come to actually making your plan. So the first thing you can do when making your meal plan is deciding how many meals or snacks that you want in the day. And then all you're going to do is divide them equally or unevenly by your calorie goal. Two examples here. So if you have a 2,400 calorie goal, maybe you're going to say, I'm going to eat 3 square meals a day. And in each of those meals, I'm going to eat 800 calories. Or you could say, I'm going to eat 2 1,200 calorie meals per day, right? Or maybe you're like, I'm gonna eat one meal that's 1,000 calories for breakfast, and then for dinner later, I'm gonna eat 1,400 calories. So 2 meals, but completely separate. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. You need to decide for yourself what works the best for your lifestyle, your job, your family endeavors, your professional endeavors, and just what fits the best for you. At the end of the day, it does not matter when the calories are consumed, as long as they consumed in a period. That's the most important thing. Find what works the best for you. And once you decide kind of how you want to do that, you can then simply plug in foods that you enjoy that fit your calorie goals to those specific things. Okay, so the example I wanted to give is, let's say you're somebody who is going to eat 3 square meals a day. I feel like this is pretty common. A lot of people, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's for most individuals. So let's just look at breakfast, for example. And you're somebody who's like, okay, I enjoy bananas, I like milk, eggs, all these things. So from there, you can just put in 2 bananas, 160 calories, 1 cup of skim milk, 80 calories, 2 eggs, 160 calories, 2 pieces of whole wheat bread, 120 calories, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, 200 calories, and 1 fat-free Greek yogurt cup, 80 calories. Altogether, I think I totaled that up right when I was prepping this, 800 calories roughly, right? This is a rough estimate for eating all those things. And the cool thing about this is you can plug and play whatever foods you want that you enjoy. Maybe you don't like bananas, 2 apples instead. Maybe you don't like skim milk, so you're gonna have chocolate milk instead. But since chocolate milk is higher in calories, maybe you aren't gonna have the 2 pieces of bread instead, okay? It's about finding the foods you enjoy, knowing the calories in them, plugging them exactly in to your calorie goals for that meal and for the day, and then literally rinsing and repeating it for the day, for the week, for the rest of your life. This is foolproof. This 100% works if you are consistent with it. And the cool thing about this is that once you get good at this, you can really start guesstimating generally what foods have for their calories, and you don't even have to strictly count your calories. And especially when you're going out to eat or going out to a friend's house, you can literally ask them, hey, what's in this meal? And they can tell you, oh, there's chicken breast, I added a little bit of whole milk, maybe there's a little bit of cheese mixed into it. And you can calculate in your head roughly, there's probably about 400 to 600 calories in 1 scoop of this casserole they made. And you know that roughly that would be almost your entire meal allotment for that specific calorie goal. So you're still kind of keeping it in that frame of mind. It's still in the back of your head, but at the end of the day, you're not as tied to it. So this is how you make a sample meal plan for your specific self. It's super easy, super simple, and when you realize that, it's incredibly freeing that you can literally eat anything that you enjoy, just fit it into your overall calorie goal and whatever works for your day. Now, another incredibly important aspect of this that a lot of people will mess up is they will think their diet is not working. And then because of that, they'll just give up. And then when they give up, what happens is they don't lose any more weight, they don't gain any more muscle, they go back to square one, and they simply say, dieting doesn't work for me. Exercise doesn't work for me. Well, if that is you, and if you're in that case where you feel like that right now, let's talk about how to know if your diet is working. So when it comes to assessing your diet success, and this can be both gaining weight or building muscle, or losing weight and losing some fat, right? Weighing consistently is by far the best tool that you can use to tell if it's working. And this may seem self-explanatory and kind of a duh, but it needs to be said because it is 100% true. Weighing yourself consistently, whether it's every day, for example, or every week, is incredibly crucial because you will get instant feedback to if what you have done leading up to that point is working. So for most people, I would recommend weighing at least every week. If you can weigh yourself every day and not be too focused on the exact number and realize that weight fluctuations will happen, I would recommend doing that. But I know for some people, weighing themselves every single day kind of becomes a little, I would say, they become obsessive over it. I know this was myself. I used to weigh myself every day and I would become so obsessive on, oh, if I was weighing myself in this number, then I just would not eat the whole day. You know, I would just really cut it out. Instead of looking at the big picture, what I should have done is just realize that that's a trend for the week and then compare all of those trends week to week, average them out, because at the end of the day, every week over a long period of time, if you're trending towards gaining weight, you know your goal is doing good. Or if you're trending towards losing weight, your goal is doing good. So when it comes to gaining weight or building muscle, you need to ask yourself, are you gaining weight consistently, slowly? And are you getting stronger / have more energy? You know your diet is working if you answer yes to all of these questions. If you are getting stronger, or I should say, if you aren't getting stronger and you are gaining weight, then you are probably gaining too much weight and maybe not pushing yourself hard enough in the gym. Likely not the case for most people, because even just a little bit of weight training with gaining weight, eating in a calorie surplus, will allow you to build some muscle. But let's talk about losing weight, because I think this is maybe more important for a lot of individuals. We all want to look better. You can ask yourself, one, is the scale going down? Okay. 2, do your clothes fit better? Do you move better? Do you notice more definition in your body when you're looking at the mirror and you're thinking, oh yeah, I see some shoulder definition, right? I never saw that before. Oh, my face looks a little bit leaner. I've never noticed that before. Are other people noticing to you? And they say, yeah, I can tell you've lost a little bit of weight. You might not even be losing actual tangible weight on the scale, but if everything's fitting better, you know for a fact that you are losing weight. And realize that usually they come at the same time, but not always. So looking at all these things in a combination, you can base off these questions. One, if you are losing weight on the scale and your clothes fit better and you're moving better and you notice definition, people are noticing, you're probably on the right track. If that's not happening, if none of those are happening, we got to subtract more calories. If you are gaining weight and you're getting stronger and you have more energy, you're on the right trend, you're on the right track. If that's not happening, you need to add more calories into your overall diet. When it comes to this, you can either also too do more exercise, usually when it comes to weight loss. So sometimes people, they will subtract more calories, as in they will eat less, but then they want to move a little bit more, so they burn more calories. I would still do more exercise even if you are trying to gain weight, because the more exercise you do and the more weight training you do, you're going to stimulate more muscle growth on top of those extra calories. So I would always recommend and advocating doing more exercise if you're doing more adding or subtracting of your calories. That's super important. Ideally, both are going to happen. And the big thing with all this, though, is I can preach add calories, subtract calories. But at the end of the day, focusing on your daily habits for these specific tasks are exactly what it is going to be coming down to. So this could simply be, I'm going to eat more vegetables. I'm going to drink more water at every single meal because I know that will help me to decrease the overall amount of calories I eat every single day. That's one example. A daily habit for gaining weight is I'm going to eat, or maybe I should say, I'm going to drink 1 glass of whole milk because that's very calorie dense and has some protein in it with every single meal, because I know if I do that, that will be extra calories, which will help me to lose weight. But that's a habit. That's something you actively need to do and add to your diet to get it to that point. But the way you know your diet is working is by if the scale is moving either way, up or down, and if the reasoning for why you are trying to go up or down on the scale is happening, looking better, moving better, gaining strength, losing weight, or I should say feeling better in your clothes. If that's happening, you're on the right track, okay? Long story short, no, that's a huge change. If you have any questions or comments on that, please go ahead and drop in the comments down below. I'd love to answer them and clarify anything for you, but hopefully that was clear enough and gave you some good guidance. And once you know all of those basic things, we can dive into a few common errors that are often done by people when dieting. These things can ruin dieting success, ruining your fitness and health goal success. So pay attention and stick all the way until the end of this because you do not want to miss any of these things. And I should say before we get into this is that you can do more than these errors. These are just some very common ones that I witness when working and talking with people. The first thing is not tracking their food at all. Not tracking calories or food at all. Now, you don't need to track calories religiously for the rest of your life. But if you don't at least track calories maybe for a couple weeks when you're first starting or maybe even a month, just to get the hang of it, just to see how many calories and different foods that you are eating with different calories in them, you are seriously shooting yourself in the foot because so many people, when I talk to them about their diet and they're like, yeah, I just can't gain weight. And I'm like, oh, okay. What's your diet look like? Well, I eat healthy and I blah, blah, blah. It's like people don't know what they're eating. And that's something we need to be self-aware of. What are we eating and what are the calories in them? Prime example, my father, I love him to death. When I was talking to him for the first time about soda, drinking soda, I was like, yeah, I just try to stay away from normal sodas. I usually drink diet. There's 0 calories in them. And he's like, oh, yeah, that sounds good. And I'm like, yeah, look at this nutrition label. He looked at the nutrition label and it was a regular Coke, like a 20-ounce Coke. He's like, there's 60 to 70 grams of sugar in this? 240 calories in one 20-ounce Coke? And I said, that's why I don't drink them. It's absolutely insane and eye-opening when you look at the calories in liquids, foods, and everything around you. It is absolutely insane, people. Eye-opening. Make sure you're tracking to some degree, having a rough estimate, because another thing that people do, once they start actually tracking, which is great, is then they'll start overestimating or underestimating on their foods. So, for example, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start tracking. That's great. 2,000 calories. That's what I'm supposed to eat in a day. And you just had 3 pieces of pizza, and you're like, oh yeah, it's got protein. It's got a little, it's probably not bad. Maybe like 200 calories for that. That's a huge problem, and that happens all the time where people will think they're eating so many less calories, but in reality, they are packing on calories. And that usually sets people up for fat loss failure, of course, but weight loss failure on the complete opposite end and opposite spectrum. There's people who overestimate how much they eat. I know a lot of people who are really skinny and they're like, I can't gain weight. I'm like, interesting. Okay, so what's your diet look like? And they'll say, well, I didn't have breakfast. I had like a salad for lunch, and I'm gonna have a sandwich for dinner. Okay, so we're talking 800 calories yes, your body doesn't have any energy to gain weight, okay? So when you're tracking, that's great, but be as precise as you can. It's all an estimate at the end of the day, but try not to overestimate, try not to underestimate. Hold yourself accountable to a standard that is meaningful, and your diet will be clear and good for you. Uh, in addition to this, a lot of times people will embrace cheat days way too much. And there's nothing wrong with eating some of your favorite junk foods that you might not normally eat on a diet. But the thing about this is that people will not realize how much of a dent that could put onto their overall dieting goals. So if you're eating really good throughout the week, you're hitting your calorie goals throughout the week, but on the weekend you're like, screw it, it's Saturday, it's football, it's college football, right? We're doing beer, we're doing wings, we're doing everything. You could literally erase that entire week of good dieting in 1 hour. 1 hour. And that's pretty profound. So realizing when you have these cheat days that they're fine to have, you can eat those foods, but it's going to come at the cost of you're going to be inflating your calorie budget quite a bit, which might set you back on your weight loss goals a bit. But maybe you only do this once a year. Maybe it's even something like the Super Bowl. And for you, realizing that, okay, I can set back my diet a little bit and that's totally okay. I know I'll get back onto it. But right now, I just want to enjoy this time with my friends. I want to enjoy some good food. That's totally your right too. Just realize for you, it's your choice and it's going to come at a cost. In addition to that, trying to make your diet absolutely perfect is the best way to make your diet not perfect, because nobody's diet will be perfect. Your circumstances will never be perfect. What you need to be doing is making your circumstances as ideal as they can be for yourself. So if you're somebody who's like, I just need to have all my meals prepped, I need to be able to have this and that, and I just need to control everything, it's never going to be like that. And you're going to be sitting at the light one day, coming home from work, super hungry, and you're like, man, I just can't, I need something to eat. And you're going to go into a gas station and you're going to have to eat something that maybe isn't the best on your diet, but it's close enough to what you would normally have. And it's not perfect, but we're not striving for perfection. We're striving for consistency and trying to be as close to perfect as we can over time. So don't strive for being perfect. Striving for being as perfect as you can in that specific scenario is the best way to do it. Another common dieting error that people will do all the time, and this is usually because the foods we eat are very low in protein, and that's, of course, undereating protein. So many of the foods that are shelf stable are very low in fiber, low in protein, high in carbs and fats. A lot of these prepackaged foods you get at the store. And this is a problem because if you're constantly eating all those foods, you're undereating on protein. And protein is important for, one, if you're trying to gain weight and build muscle and strength, protein is the building blocks to do that. Two, if you're trying to lose weight, protein or your muscle is incredibly useful to help you lose weight because muscle burns calories at rest. So if you are losing muscle by not getting enough protein in your weight loss journey, you are literally saying, okay, I'm going to eat less and I want to lose the muscle or the thing that burns calories at rest. So then I have to eat even more less because I'm not burning more calories at rest, right? It's kind of one of those things. So getting in your protein is super crucial, whether you're gaining weight, maintaining weight, or losing weight. It's all important. Something that people will do too is just straight up sabotage their home. And this can look a lot of different ways, but your environment will greatly dictate your fitness and diet goals. So if you are always buying cookies and cakes, bringing them home, putting them on the center table so it's the first thing you see every single time you walk in your home, that's inviting you to binge on those cookies, cakes, all those delicious things. Versus if you set up your environment where there's some fruit in the corner, you open your fridge and there's lots of lean protein options ready available for you. If there's maybe some good snacks in the cupboard, you have some string cheese or maybe some lower calorie cracker options, and those are very easily available for you. Two completely separate environments that you have the choice to change for yourself, okay? Liquid calories are incredibly dangerous as well for your dieting goals. People don't realize this too. And this is one of the things I was talking to somebody about when it comes to gaining weight, is that you can seriously consume 300 calories in one of those little shakes, right? It's one of those Ensure shakes, and get in those nutrients, get in those calories super easily. A lot of the older adults and older clients I work with that are really skinny and trying to do that, I tell them to pound those because there's not a lot of liquid in them, not a lot of overall substance, but you can ultimately gain so much to your calorie goals just by doing that. So it goes on the flip side too, if you're always drinking margaritas and a bunch of alcohol, and if you're consuming lots of Coke products or soft drinks, all these different things, they can seriously inflate your calories so much, but they still count. Just because they're not solid food doesn't mean they're not going to make you gain weight or lose weight. They still count and they still have calories, okay? The other huge problem too involves this idea of the it's just one mentality. And this is an okay mentality to have if you are somebody who's normally consistent with your diet. The problem with this is that the most of the time when people are eating in their diets, they're not conscious of what they're eating. So they're always in the mindset of it's just one. Where maybe you'll go to a buffet and there's some donuts on the buffet in the dessert section. You're like, I'm gonna have a donut, it's just one. But then tomorrow you say the same thing. Then tomorrow you say the same thing. And it's a recurring thing. If you're consistently saying it's just one, it is always one, right? And it always is gonna come back to bite you in the end. Versus if you're somebody who normally doesn't take a donut, but today you're like, I'm gonna treat myself. That's totally okay. That's a good frame of mind to be at. And then one of the other things that people do is they eat too healthy in their diet. This may be shocking when it comes from me that you think of, but eating too healthy can be a big issue because people will think that the healthy food in itself is the reason why they are losing weight. It's not because of the healthy food. It's because the healthy food usually leads them to eating in a calorie deficit. And the calorie deficit, or eating less calories per day than you burn, is what's going to allow you to ultimately lose the weight. Healthy food is a great way to do that, but you can still do it with junk food. And you can still have a little bit of junk food, a little bit of ice cream, a little bit of cookies in your diet every single day, as long as you are in a calorie deficit. And on the flip side too, if you're trying to gain weight, you can eat healthy food, right? You don't need to just eat a bunch of junk food. You just need to beware of your overall calorie budget and your calorie goals. That will set you up for long-term success for the rest of your dieting career. So go ahead, if you haven't already, like the video and subscribe to the channel. We help individuals of all abilities improve their overall health and knowledge of the gym. And once you are done doing that, you might be interested in this other video I created right here, talking all about mastering calorie counting and calorie calculating for beginners. So this will give you even more context into some of the stuff we talked into this video, but I think you would greatly enjoy it. So go ahead and check that out. Be all strong. We'll see you next time.